Why do you think it's important for students to continue your legacy of working for public health and in issues like this?
I think the biggest factor is all you have to do is to look at the state of New Mexico or even across this country when we look at people of color, when we look at Latinos, when we look at the socioeconomic index of our comunidad, and just see the conditions that they have to deal with, the challenges in terms of health, public health. They need very strong advocates. They need representatives of their own communities who can research the issues, present the issues, disseminate information on the issues in a way that really represents the community perspective, versus just completely alienated, isolated, self-egotistical perspective. We are always, and it's my belief in philosophy as an educator, as a researcher, that we are always a part of our community. We never leave it behind. It's always within us. It creates the motivation and drive. And so for the next generation, it is critical that they be firmly anchored in a comunidad. I think that's a real stabilizing force. I think it's we need our raza to continue to enter these professions because they have that sense of centeredness. They bring that perspective both in diversity of thought as well as diversity of culture that can make a change in our profession. We can't just go with outside experts all the time, but we really need to develop the critical mass of expertise that Latinos themselves can bring to the table, and I think I'm a part of that generation, and that's what I would like to see continue, where we can advocate for ourselves.
What is the best and the worst part of a career like this?
I think now, in current times, the worst part is actually the expense and the cost of a public education. It wasn't like that in my time. Not that it was cheap, but I think there was many other windows of opportunity in terms of financial aid, and the cost has gone up so much that many young Latinos who should be pursuing an education are saying, I don't want to come out of debt, at 100,000. 250,000 for medical education, so it's just not worth it. That in itself can be a definite deterrent to pursuing. The opposite would be that in encouraging professional careers, we don't have a glass ceiling over us where we have someone else telling us what to do, where we have someone else developing the designs, the interventions, and the strategies, where our input is so much needed and so critical. So a career is a window for us where we can still impact society and create society level change, just in terms of bringing our educational capacity, bringing our educational skill and expertise and knowledge to different levels within society to work with our communities and impact change. So that's the positive aspect. So education is a tool of a lifetime. The barrier is, how do we make youth really understand that and see into the future rather than just living in the now?
Professor Avila, I know you recently became a tenured professor at UNM. I also want to ask you, what advice would you give to young students looking into getting in academia, and how was the process for you?
In entering academia, you can't go in unplanned. You really need to plan, just like you would in terms of savings and an account. You really need to plan out your career path. As part of planning out your career path, you need to research the academic programs in the area that you're interested in. That's essential. You need to do that. You need to find faculty as you're researching these areas in the programs that you're interested in, you need to identify with a certain faculty. You need to look at their work in the brochures or on their website and find a faculty member that in some way you can relate to, someone that you feel, wow, I like the work that they're doing in city regional planning here. They're doing the latest. I really want to go here. Look at this professor. Look what he's done. He's really worked with, communities of color. He's really working with Latinos, with Native Americans. That's what I want. Those are the sort of the academic bearing that I would also like to assume, and I'm assuming it if I'm going to go and study with this person. You have to research your career as carefully as you would, I think, any other part of your life, because it is a part of your life. It's a central part of your life. It's a part of your life that it's going to sustain you. And I think one of the hardest challenges for me was that, and I think for many professors of color in moving through the tenure process, was just the fact that many times community engagement, community service is not put high on the academic merit of scholarship. And that is basically who I am. Really addressing community-based participatory research with Latino communities, Chicano communities, immigrant communities, is a major area of what I do. And I had to build that support system. I had to work with some of the top people in the field. I was mentored by them, still being mentored. You're never told to be not mentored. Even your students mentor you. You learn from your students in terms of where they come from, because each of our students that comes into the classroom that we interact with as professors represents a segment, represents a slice of a community that they're coming from. So in that sense, they bring in that community environment, the community issues that they share, and that we as faculty build our scholarship on, per se. The tenure process is very challenging. You have to build a strong support system. You have to really build bridges and connections across the variety of the color spectrum, if you will, white, black, Latino, Native American, everything. You need everyone's support. And it takes a while. You have to keep at it. You have to be willing to do some of the grunt work, if you will, as well as the glory work. All those are characteristics of someone who needs to be hardworking, someone who needs to be tenacious, someone who needs to be resilient, and more than anything, such as in my case, to keep the values and to keep centered and aligned very strongly with my communities. So that gave me the academic interest, but it also gave me the academic passion. So I wasn't just doing something for the sake of doing it. It gave meaning, and does give meaning up to this day, to my work. So more important than anything else in pursuing a faculty position, getting your PhD, you really do have to align yourself. You have to be centered. You have to be really disciplined, and you have to build bridges. In this case, you have to build an extensive social network, because when you least know it and you're least expecting it, someone that you might not have thought could help you in a certain way is a key person in providing a resource and service to you.